everybody. This is Susan Hedstrom, and joining me today is Cindy Zapax up in Pennsylvania. Cindy, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, I think as well as everyone's doing right now.
Right, I think this is 6 weeks for us. It feels like day 6,000. Uh,
Yeah.
we're certainly ready for some release, some getting out a little bit more. We've got a great group of folks joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for taking some time out on a busy Friday to come and join us. We're going to be talking a little bit about behavior. And Cindy, I got to tell you, today's a great day to talk about behavior. In our house, homeschooling has been going great. And today, Jaden decided he wasn't into it, wasn't going to do it. So it'll be really nice to hear some of the thoughts and ideas that you have around some of these behavior issues today. For those of you who don't know Cindy, she is a board certified behavior analyst and has been in the industry for many years. She also has a son, Dash, who, Cindy, how old is Dash now?
13.
So a mom to a 13-year-old boy with Prader-Willi syndrome. So with that quick little introduction, I thought we would just jump right into the content of the webinar. Cindy's going to start off with a few slides to kind of get us all thinking about behavior. And then, as in previous webinars, we will open up the line to questions. So again, with that all said, Cindy, why don't I pass it on over to you? You can run through some of your slides today.
I think I hit something. Okay, so what I thought I would do today, I know there's been some really great webinars already talking about behavior and Prader-Willi syndrome, and I felt like today we're going to talk about that, but I'm going to hopefully talk about some things that are practical. And I'm able to provide kind of that professional view, but I can add in the parent view because I'm living it along with all of you. So hopefully this will be helpful for you guys. So I compiled this top 10 list. So, okay. So the first one I would say is have a plan. So anytime you want to do anything with your kids, we know that we're stuck in our house, we're there for a long time, just have a plan. And at this point, the simpler the better. If you already have one that you've been using, like for example, in our house, my son, through the years, we've managed to come up with a little plan in which he earns time on the iPad in the morning for 20 minutes and then at night for 20 minutes. And that's, based on his behavior during the day. So what we've done is taken that plan that we've used all the time and we've modified it. So there's just more times for the iPad. And if you don't have one that you feel like, oh, we're running around during the week and when my kid's home, it's like their break time and you don't have one, then you might want to think about some sort of plan. And hopefully today, some of these suggestions can help you with that. So number 9, we need to accept what we can control and what we cannot control. That is hard. We can control environment, but we cannot control behavior. But we can influence behavior by manipulating the environment. So these pictures that I have here, so this is actually a picture of in my house. It's in the kitchen. Well, it's in the dining room area, and it looks like a mess. But what it is this pile here is Dashiell's pile. And this pile here is my younger son's. I also have a 9-year-old boy. So this is his pile. And throughout the day, they know, Dashiell knows this is his pile, Holden knows this is his, and it's in a common area in our house. We spend a lot of time in that room, and they know where to go if they need something to do. Dashiell loves art projects, so we've got glue, we've got the crayons. This is one of his we found out that he really likes graphic novels, and there's some simple ones that are good at his reading level. And of course, he loves spooky, scary things. So this is an R.L. Stine graphic novel he can pick up, and just various art project cut and paste things that he can do throughout the day. And he can just go to that, and if there's downtime, and that's been really helpful. The other one, this we actually made a while ago, but now we're all eating together a lot more often. And in the mornings, definitely breakfast seems to be a lot more hurried. So he keeps this next to him as, a reminder. I take one bite and I chew with my mouth closed, and then I wait. I don't sit there with the fork. I don't sit there shoveling more food in my mouth. Then I take another bite, chew with my mouth closed. I wait, I take a drink, and then I go back all over again. So this just helps a little bit on our end. We don't have to keep saying the same thing over and over. And my son responds well to all of these kind of rule-based things. He doesn't always love it, but it works well for us. So we need to be realistic. I'm sure, everyone out there is realizing that we're not going to jump in and start teaching a whole lot of new things right now. We may even have to backtrack. So start small and just go slow. You can always build. It's better to start small and be successful. So everyone's happy, everyone's willing to try whatever it is we need to do. We're going to start really small. The break times and the down times initially may be a lot longer than cleaning or any of the other things you want your child to do. But over time, that could get bigger. And just go slow. Go at your pace, go at their pace. That's the important part. So unfortunately, you're probably going to want to expect some of the behavior to get worse or some old habits to return. I am sure that you're all experiencing things like this. We see the nail biting, we see the hoarding, just the general tantrums. Part of right now is just accepting that that's just part of right now. And if things are getting worse, it's not an indicator that this is a downward spiral for your child forever. It can very well be just because of the situation we're in. And as much as possible, try not to accept no. I know a lot of times we give our child with Prader-Willi syndrome an idea to do something new. Susan and I were discussing trying to do family things together, going for walks, playing basketball games. It's often met with a lot of resistance. So you want to pick and choose your battles. If it's a time when you have the energy and you think your child is in a pretty good spot, don't accept that no, but we're going to talk about a couple things that we can do to make it easier. So this picture of them playing hockey, Dashiell's actually on an adapted ice hockey team. And obviously they stopped practicing way before even our county and state was shut down. So we wanted to keep up with the practicing, but he does really well in the structured group of the practice, but he's not really that interested in practicing at home or with his brother. And so we said, we're going to set up the hockey. You don't have hockey anymore. We have to practice for the coach, and he was like, nope, I do it on the ice. But we managed to come up with an agreement and a compromise and set a timer. And his brother confirmed that he wasn't going to go too fast because Dashiell gets concerned about that because obviously his 9-year-old brother can do some pretty cool tricks with his hockey stick. So his brother agreed to keep it easy and simple, and they actually had a really nice time playing, and we've done it a couple times. So as much as possible, you want to make activities and expectations visual. It's pretty amazing what just writing something down can do. I'm not even going to try to figure out why, but I know that it works. So these are actual pictures of and examples of things that we've done literally just during this break. So this first one, for this period of time, I was busy because I'm working from home and my husband and I had meetings. So we said, you can't come in, but this one's for Dash and he's eating his snack and he was listening to some music on the iPad. You can do that while you're eating your snack. He loves a good workout video and that's what he wanted to do. So he was going to work out and then he gets his hour break. And that helped him move through that and keep him on task while we were done, while we were working. This we made up, we called it movement math, and it might be a little bit more for my 9-year-old to do some activities in between, but we've got a deck of cards. If you pull out a heart, you have to do burpees, and then the number on the card is how much, what you have to do. So just another fun way to get some movement in, pick 5 cards and do it. And they both have a lot of fun doing that. And on the last one, this one was created, my thing's going away. Okay, this one was created very early on because I know we probably all have children asking a lot of questions these days. And that's definitely been the one thing that we've seen a lot more of, these repetitive questions, the why, the same question over and over and over and over again. And I know we can tell him to stop asking questions, but that's not really going to work and it's just going to frustrate everyone. So I pulled up the handy whiteboard And this was during breakfast, I think, the one day, and I did the one column for questions and the one column for comments or statements. And I said, you have to have less questions. You have to have more comments than questions in order to move on to the next thing. And every time, whatever we'd have a conversation, the activity was going on, I would just make a tally mark each time one of the two happened. And this was really interesting because we found out he really didn't really know the difference between a question and a statement. He kept trying to make a statement, but he kept asking a question. And at one point he said, my head's all confused. I don't even know. So we worked on that. And I actually mentioned that to his teacher. He is doing some virtual learning right now. And she's like, oh, okay. And so they're working on that in like in language arts statements and questions. But that visual alone was motivating for him. And it really, I don't think he even knew what he was doing. So this is similar to like a self-monitoring system. So that was helpful. And this is another example, just more visual supports that you can use. These weren't necessarily done, these were done previously. But this was, during the week, just to get him exercising more. So by the end of the week, we wanted all the blocks filled in. And when he did it, he had physical therapy aerobics, he had physical therapy core exercises, OT activities, he had to read for 15 minutes, play outside for 30, and practice his piano for 5 minutes. And we would just check off when it was done. And we want that done by the end of the week. And that helped him. This was for getting home from school. So when they get home, they have to do these things first. This is also to help because I'm not home 3 days out of the week when he gets home. So it's helpful for the person who's watching my children as well, that they're saying, well, you've really got to do this. So they have to unpack, put their shoes away, bag in closet, and hang up their coat. And then on a whiteboard, with a dry erase marker, this is in like a sleeve protector, I had different expectations for each kid for that afternoon. And these are his snack choices for after school. This was a couple years ago, but it was really nice, again, for helping with the other person that was watching them as well, because they're like, here's your choices. If you don't want these choices, then you just don't eat. And they could argue all they wanted, but it wasn't going to change. And then at one point, I had a checklist hanging on both my kids' doors with questions like, did I close my drawers? Did I turn the light off? Are my toys on the shelf? And it was right on their door, so it was right in their face. I would just check it off before they left. And visual schedules are very nice as well. This is actually an example of one that I created, and then I said, I should take a picture of that so I can show people. We had a lot of stuff to do. We went from blood work to diner. You can see we were in the car for a while. And we just wrote it on a coloring book, and that really helped keep them on task. These are visual schedules that you can use digitally, iPad, iPhone. The ChoiceWorks app we used a lot when my son was younger. This is a really nice one. You set it up over here. When they're done, you move it and it's all done. This one's nice. It has a timer built in. So we used to use this in the morning to help him get dressed quicker. So he'd tap on get dressed and the countdown would start. And if he beat the timer, then we had, I forget at the time, but he really likes tickets. I think he earned like a ticket, like an extra for beating the timer. And then it says kind of what happens at the end of the day. And then this other app, let me see, I gotta move this. Here we go. So this is a nice one as well. And this one is nice because you can actually import your own pictures. The ChoiceWorks app, you cannot import your own pictures. You have to use the pictures that are there. And then these also on the First Then app, you can click on, say, brush your teeth, and it will open up to the actual steps for toothbrushing, which is nice as well for some people. All right, number 4. We want to make sure that we use the individual's unique interest to make things fun. Because like we said, right now it's tough for everyone. Everyone's tolerance is down. Everyone gets frustrated quickly. We're confused. It's just a really tough time. So when we're going and we're not going to accept that no that we talked about, no, we're going to go play basketball. We're going to play together. How can you build in what your child likes to make that activity a little bit more fun? So these are things we've actually done over the past couple weeks. So this one here, this was during my kids' spring break, quote unquote. So we drew a beach on the driveway. So we put the ocean and the sand. And my younger son loves, physical activity. So he's on a bike. He was the beach patrol. And this is my son, Dashel, with Prader-Willi syndrome. He loves to check people in. He loves to check people out. He likes to deal with money. He likes to write and give receipts. So this week, he actually went down to the basement and grabbed this old IKEA table and brought it all the way outside to set up a check-in table. So I live near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So we go to the Jersey Shore beaches a lot. So a lot of the beaches require beach tag. So he is used to seeing a beach tag person on the way to the beach. So that's what he set up here. And that got him really engaged. And then we had the whole beach set up, and I came in and I was a person, and he loves to be a lifeguard. So he had set up a lifeguard stand over here and he sat there. And we had a really nice time. During snack time, I filled a cooler with snacks and wrote out a menu and with prices, and it was, he knew what his snacks were. It was, the limited snacks, and they loved it. They got their pretend money and they bought snacks from the Fudgy Wudgy Man, and it was a good time. But I made sure I incorporated some of his interests, or I would not have gotten the compliance that I got. This is another one. So one of Dashel's other most favorite things is car washes. Loves car washes. So my kids have been playing car wash a lot, and it gets a little physical activity for him too. They take turns riding the bike around and then washing. And a lot of times it ends up in like a soap fight, but it's pretty cool. In this picture, we needed the yard cleaned. And so I told them I would pay them 5 cents for every stick they picked up. And I didn't realize how motivated they were going to be to do that. And we were out a lot of money, but the sticks got cleaned up, and we made it into a fun little game where he was putting the sticks down and checking in and out like every 10 sticks. And then over here, like a lot of you probably did, we watched the oh, shoot, sorry. I hit the wrong button. Why is it not? All right. Sorry. Nope. We are here. All right. It doesn't want to go to the full screen. Susan?
I am not.
Here, I know what I can do.
Well, Cindy, while you're poking around, I was looking at those apps that you were showing a minute ago, and I remember using some of those when Jaden was a little bit younger, and I loved them. I will say, like the ChoiceWorks app, not being able to put your own photos in there, I felt really did limit it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just want that perfect image, right?
Right.
But I never had used the First Then app, and if you can import your own photos there, that sounds like it would be a keeper. It'd be a good one to go check out.
Yeah, that one was nice. And then you can link it to the activity, which was nice, which has like the steps for toothbrushing or eating or whatever.
Right.
Okay, sorry for that. I'm here now.
Okay.
So this last one, we saw the Trolls movie. And so again, we made tickets, we made a movie theater. So Dashel doesn't really sit for entire movies, but we wanted to do something together. So we were able to get him for about 45 minutes, motivated and interested. They made the tickets, they checked them off. We had our snack bar, and we had our snacks pre-portioned. So we made our snacks beforehand. He ran the snack bar, and we gave him our money, and he handed out the tickets, and then he sat and watched a good portion of it. So that was really nice as well. So just using their interests to get involved. And I know we all know this, but we got to stay consistent. We want to set limits and stick to them. So right now, you do want to think about your limits and if they're appropriate for the time, even though there may have been a certain rule that your child always followed, or maybe they could maintain, really nice behavior for hours. They may be down to maybe 1 hour now, just because of all of the extra stuff that's going on and the extra anxiety we're feeling. So, but it's going to be super important now more than ever to really just be consistent, whatever that consistency is for you. I just put on here, this is an example of how we're getting through our days. Dashiell's school, he uses a point sheet similar to this at school. So that's what I did. Took the one that he has at school and then I made it, it's not, his one at school is a lot more intense. I simplified it and made it for what we were needing to do here. And so you can see on the top, here, we have just the activities. And what we do is, because we learned he earns his iPad at night, and then when we started doing that years ago, we'd then have problem behavior getting him from the iPad to the bed. So once he's done doing the iPad at night, his new points start rolling in. And so from the previous night, we carry them over. He has to do all of this, getting ready and all that and going to bed. Then we carry them over. So we have breakfast and their morning routine, and then if he got enough points, then he can do any activity he wants. If not, they're still probably going to get a break because I can't expect kids to be on and on and on, but I get to choose the break. And then down here, when we talk about visual, didn't want too much of anything because too much of a good thing isn't always good. So he can choose Xbox or iPad for 2 of the activities. And then we initially said YouTube for 1, but he's not really watching YouTube as much anymore. He found some different shows and movie he likes. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4. So for the first time morning, he picked to watch a movie. So we crossed that off. So that's done. So the next break, he can pick one of these. The one thing that my kids have been doing is they like to bank their time. So they've realized that if they can do 1 hour, that's more fun than a half hour, which is what their breaks are here, half-hour breaks. So, and that's totally fine with me. So a lot of times he does this one, he skips this one, and then when he earns his third break, there's a second sheet for the rest of the day. He then will spend an hour watching his shows, and then they cross off 2, 1, 2, and then he's good. So we just go along the day like that. So if you haven't reached out to your school, I know schools, everyone's doing things very differently these days. But if you have an idea of what they did at school in the past, if there's a way that you can modify that for home, go for it.
So Cindy, can you go back to that sheet for just a
Yep.
sec? I have a question regarding that. So you're
Yep.
having him earn points in order
Yep.
to receive the screen time, essentially. What
Yep.
happens if he doesn't earn the points, or does he always earn the points?
No, he had a time or two where he didn't. So if he doesn't get, if he hadn't gotten the 13,
Uh-huh.
it's my choice. So essentially they're going to get downtime, but he's not going to get his most favorite thing.
Okay, so you're not completely removing the motivator, but you're diminishing it slightly. Yeah, I was wondering about that only because if Jaden thinks that he's not going to be able to earn something, the
Yep.
whole system goes out the door. Like he
Yep.
just bolts against the whole thing. So at least in our house, he always gets to earn it. It just might take longer, or he might have
Right.
to do makeup work or something.
Right. And this is totally individualized to the person. So this sheet this way works for Dash, but yeah, you
Right.
definitely need to take into account what works for your kid. So my younger son is the same way. He does the math and he knows it's not possible. I mean, he's smart. Why should I bother? So for him, he loves football cards. So throughout the day, he's right. Even though maybe he knows he's done breakfast, he's not going to get here. But if he does all of these, he's still going to earn some football cards. So there's some of
Right.
that incentive there. So you just but yeah, no, that's a good point. You definitely have to think about how your child's going to respond to it.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like you said, it's going to be very individualistic. It's going to depend on each person. But that's definitely been a struggle that we've had. So
Yeah,
I really like this sheet though. That's
thanks.
already.
Good. So the next one, this is pretty cool. So there is a self-monitoring. So that sheet I showed you in the past, or this one that I just showed you, he and I fill it out together. It's kind of like self-monitoring, but I kind of just answer yes or no because that's how his school does it. So there is a system. If anyone's ever heard me talk before, I've mentioned this SelfMatch. It's a really nice self-monitoring system that has a lot of research behind it. But in order to do like self-match, legit self-match, you're supposed to be trained and it's pretty intensive. So the people who made self-match, they're parents themselves. And so during this time, they created the self-match brief. So it's a very simple version of the self-match. So it's very simple system, uh, a self-monitoring system to use now that anybody can use. So you don't have to be using self-match in the past, and you don't have to have been trained. And their Facebook page has videos of them using it with their kids during the day, and then videos of other people who are using it. And this link here, it's like a crazy big link. It Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So this is the actual site if you're interested. So this is what the self-match looks like. So it's similar to that form that I showed you that we did with Dashel, but the difference is that the student, your child has to answer yes or no, and then the parents answer yes or no. So it's about teaching honesty. So if you both answer yes, they get 2 points, say, for being responsible. If you both say no, they still get 1 point because we want them to be honest and we want them to be aware of their behavior. And if one person says yes and the other person says no, then there's no points. And then similar to that other sheet, they add up and you can decide, when your child earns what they earn, that whole thing. So if you go to that link, there's example forms and there's a whole explanation here for parents. It's very parent friendly about how to use it, and then a whole bunch more sample forms. And I think since that is not a very good link, easily copied down, we
I can insert
can,
that link, Cindy,
okay,
into the blog. So after this webinar is done, we'll have the recording of the video. We then take some of the text, put it into the blog, and I can make sure that that link is included.
yeah, that's what I
I
was
think
thinking. We
another
put
great,
the link either on the FBWR page or send it out to
Mhm.
somebody or something if people are interested in it.
Yeah, for
Cool.
sure.
Give yourself a break. It's like I've had to do this. Like sometimes I've just had to say, you know what? Like this is just hard for everyone. And as much as you want to be like on your kid and having them do stuff, sometimes we all just need a break. And so this is our fire pit in our backyard. And we would like to have family time, sit around the fire pit. Dashel likes to he loves to like do sticker books. And so he'll come out with his sticker books and he'll do the sticker books while we're sitting around the fire. And he may not interact with us as much, but he's there, he's with us. And I've learned to just say, we're here, we're doing this, we're taking a break. I know he's safe, and so we're good. So just remember to give yourself a break. Things are going to happen right now. You're going to be doing your best, and just take a deep breath. And as always, number one, we just need to respect the Prader-Willi syndrome. This is one of my, another BCBA. I heard her say this years ago, and I just thought it was so perfect that we all know that there's going to be times where Prader-Willi syndrome is going to rear its ugly head, and we're going to try to do everything we can do, and we're going to try to do it right, and it may or may not work, and everything's just going to be a little bit harder right now. So take a step back, respect it, modify what you need to modify, make sure whatever's going on is going to be safe, and then just learn from it and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. To agree with you on this one, I've heard from other professionals, the kids they just are wired differently. They have a harder time controlling their emotions. They oftentimes lack some of the same motivators that other individuals have. So when you recognize some of these challenges that they're faced, you can change how you handle it so that the family unit can work more cohesively. So Cindy, did you want to open it up for questions at this
Sure.
time? Is that the
Yeah.
plan?
Yeah.
All right. The first question we had was related to the apps that you shared with us.
Okay.
There was the ChoiceWorks app and the First Then app.
Yes.
Where can parents go to find those apps? And do you know if do they need to buy them? Are they complimentary? Do you know any of those details?
Um, so they're both, I have Apple products, they're in the App Store, but I think so. Whatever you have, the Android, the app, whatever, they'll be in that app store there. You can use it on, whatever device. I don't know if they would work on a desktop, but definitely whatever handheld device you have. They were not free, but they were not expensive. I feel like first then, I don't know how much they are right now. I probably used them 8, 9 years ago, so it's been a while. They're not free, but they're no more than $10 or $15. I feel like ChoiceWorks was only 4 or 5, and First
Mhm.
Then was 15 at that time, but I don't know what they are right now.
Yeah, we used ChoiceWorks, and I don't think it was cost prohibitive either. I want to say it was in the $5 to $10 range, and that was great. But I would add, one of the things I was noticing, Cindy, when you were presenting earlier, was how informal so many of your visuals were. It was like on the fly. I recognize I need to have this visual, and you just took out a piece of paper and you wrote it out real quick. Um, we can be very intricate, but I've found like when you use these apps, there's a setup process and like just getting used to using the app, getting comfortable with the app. So the apps are great, but you don't have to use an app to get a great visual schedule.
Right. And you can even do a
We,
combo. Like if you have the
Mhm.
app set up for your normal day, but like me, you're stuck in the car and everyone wants to know what you're doing, you just pull out the coloring book and write it down.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of 3x5 cards. They're super cheap. You can order them in the thousands, and I can really quickly put together a visual schedule. And I just put them in order on the counter or on the table. And then the beauty is when you're done, you can crumple it up, throw it away, turn it over, and use it the next day, whatever you want to do. But it really, at least with Jaden, it gives him that sense of accomplishment of I get to turn the card over
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that.
now. And it gives you flexibility. You can reorganize them or whatnot on the fly.
Yeah, that's
Um,
actually a really good point, Susan. I'm glad you said that. So, and we talked a little bit about this the other day. For people who use schedules already or have tried to use them and they didn't work or want to use them more, a schedule is actually meant to teach flexibility. So it shouldn't make things more rigid. So you initially set the schedule up, you're going to follow an order so the child learns it's going to be predictable, but then pretty quick you want to start changing things up on them. For example, if you know it's going to rain and you think you're going to go outside, but you're like, it's definitely going to rain today, you can put go outside on the schedule and then, oh no, oops, it's raining today, no biggie. And if you have the index cards, if you have the choice works, if you have it written, we're not going outside, and you just cross that off and then you put the new thing. It's not a big deal.
Mhm.
So it's a way to teach flexibility within that little range there.
Yeah, we've learned through trial and error that we have to build flexibility into Jaden's schedule, because if it's too rigid, we start getting behaviors. When there's non, I hate using the word non-compliance, but when he refuses to do something, if we don't have a flexibility built into that schedule, somebody has to lose, right? And that's the last thing you want. He doesn't want to lose, I don't want to lose. But if there's no flexibility built in and there's a refusal, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser.
Yeah.
So I like having flexibility to be like, well, you can do it in any order you want,
Mhm.
or you can, you can block your day. You can choose which block you want to do first, but it empowers him to kind of make
Mhm.
the schedule his own without putting me in a situation where we're going to be fighting about something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as much choice you can put on their end, letting them, well, you're definitely going to have to do this at 9:30 because you have this
Mhm.
Zoom meeting with your teacher. So that's at 9:30, but I don't care when you do everything else, you put in order. That's really
Right.
good.
So, Carmen would like us to share the checklist that you use when Dash is eating. I'm going to
Sure.
go through some slides here real quick. I
There you
think that
go.
might have been
It's
this
like it's
one. Is that
early on. Number 3. There you
slide
go. Yep.
3?
Yep. Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that checklist?
Sure. So I think like a lot of the kids with Prader-Willi syndrome, when he eats, he'll sometimes eat too fast, or it'll just kind of be messy. And as he gets older, it's it's really something that I worry about, socially. And I also don't want him to choke. So when we started this, and he is also familiar, as you can see, we have a lot of lists and visual things in our house. So we've already kind of laid the framework that, when this comes down, I'm going to follow it. So I worked it through with him first. So I wrote it down, we wrote it down together, and I showed it to him. So when you're going to teach a skill to somebody, the first thing you want to do is explain it to them. So I told him that, we need to be neat. Other people feel uncomfortable when we eat and we're messy. And also, it's not safe. You might choke. And he's had some pretty severe choking episodes, and he is very aware of what that feels like, and he does not want that to happen. So we can talk about that as well. And I said, so we're going to do it like this. And I used it the first time, so I modeled it. So you're going to want to explain it, you're going to want to model it, then you're going to want to use it and provide feedback. So we just lay it on the table at meal times and snack times. I mean, I'll be honest, we don't do it every meal and every snack, but I don't think anybody's capable of that. But we use it as much as we can. And if he's following it and he seems to be eating nicely, I'll be like, wow, I'll give him attention for that. You look so nice and your clothes are clean because you're eating slow. And if he's shoveling the food in, or a lot of times he might take a bite with a fork and then he's keeping the fork there because he's waiting to take the next bite. But we want him, and we told him what wait meant. He can read. Visuals would be helpful as well. Some people would be better with pictures. So the waiting picture could actually be like hands on the table, the food and the fork on the plate. So it's really clear. That could be helpful as well. And so we explain that to him, and we just kind of point to it. And sometimes we just have to point to it, and then he'll fix what he's doing, and it takes some of that nagging out.
Yeah, this is something that we could certainly implement with Jaden. He loves to shovel his food in, not as fast as he can, but he doesn't like to have that pause.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, it's going to be hard. So it's going to depend, like a lot. Like I know my son definitely is, and a lot of people would be called rule governed. So a lot of times they are going to be more likely. This is where we can use the environment. They're going to be more likely to follow if there's a rule there. But some kids may need some reinforcement, so you may have to build in something for actually using it. Because I could see a lot of kids, especially older kids, or kids whose food drive is really, really strong. It's going to be a lot harder for them. And so you may have to think about what would be a good, reinforcer. Would just, sometimes it's like a silly song or a high five, for following it, or stickers on a chart, or whatever works for you. But you may have to add that in because it's going to be hard.
right. And I can see that maybe some of the parents joining us today whose kids are a little bit older might think that this is for younger kids, but you said Dash is 13 now?
13. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jaden's 11, and I still feel like a lot of these things are very relevant and usable.
Yeah. I mean, a lot for him, it's like out of sight, out of mind. So if we just bring these back in. And then as kids get older, you can modify them so they look more developmentally appropriate. A younger kid eating schedule would probably be all pictures. And this is actually an index card, Susan. So pulled out an index card and I wrote this down, and there we were. Although that's not my handwriting. My 9-year-old helped.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah. So but yeah, so all of these principles and all of these things apply to all ages. It's just the materials you use or the language you use that you'll change based on the age.
Right. Tiffany was able to find the prices for these two apps
Oh,
that you
nice.
mentioned earlier, so I just thought I would share it with everyone. ChoiceWorks, which is this one in the center, that one's $9.99. The First Then app, that one is $14.99. And again, the difference is, Cindy, that I heard from you is the First Then lets you put in your own photos, and ChoiceWorks does not. But maybe you guys
Right.
when you go to the app store, you can probably check out the two and compare them a little bit more.
ChoiceWorks is a little bit more limiting because I think what you see on the screen is the longest schedule you can have, but you can have multiple schedules. So you can see that one says my nighttime schedule. So you could have multiple. The First Then, I don't think there's a limit. I think I remember it can be as long as you want. And like I said, you can add in the task list. So you could click on get dressed, and then it would open up to the get dressed task list, and it could actually be pictures of your kids' clothes or your kids' room on each step. The ChoiceWorks app, actually, I remember it had a neat feature It actually had a first then feature. It had a waiting feature. It had a little short. It had a couple stories about social stories and a timer that we used at one point, and it was a nice visual that the timer would be set for like dinner's in 20 minutes, instead of nagging mom for 20 minutes. So the visual of like play a game or color was there with the timer running, and then was telling you when the timer goes off, that's when dinner is going to happen. So the ChoiceWorks had a couple of things like that, and that first then didn't. So I mean, they're both good.
Yeah, and some people may just naturally prefer one
Right.
over the other, but there's options out there for sure.
Right.
So Jordan's asking the question I think all of us working moms have, which is how do we keep our loved one on a consistent schedule when our work schedules vary during the day? So how, you set up a schedule for your child and then, oops, but I've actually got a phone call at this time. So I've got to go work and do this for a minute. How do you institute some sort of schedule that allows for that flexibility?
Right. So, I mean, I think as long, kind of like the first thing I said, if you have some sort of a plan, so we run into that with our written schedule. So that written point sheet, actually, when I first started it, I had typed in up top, and then I was having to change it so much that I just left them all blank. And I had actually the breaks in at certain points, and then the breaks were changing so much that I just took that out. So whatever framework you have, so I just come in and I say, oh, wait, you were supposed to do, we were going to do this together, but now I have a meeting. So, we just have our own little system. Like for us, I just cross it off and say, we're doing this instead, and then we'll do it later. So, whatever framework you're using, if it's like a Velcro laminated schedule, if it's a handwritten schedule, if it's a ChoiceWorks schedule, just go in and change it and just explain why.
Right. Well, I can add too, Jordan, I'm working from home like you, and oftentimes I'll have, for example, this webinar pops up during the middle of the day. So that's where having those flexible activities. So we have our school schedule set up. We have 6 activities that need to be done. Well, at noon today, you're going to be working on these 2 activities because I know you can work on those
Mhm.
without me, right?
Right.
Or it's okay, I've got a call at 9, we're going to take break at 9, and when I'm done we're going to come back and start back up again, and maybe break gets a little bit longer than it would have been the day before, but those techniques seem to work well in our house so
Yeah,
far.
that's the same. That's what I've been doing as well. And that's like that pile that I showed you of the 2 piles that the kids have.
Mhm.
There's been times where they've walked in the room where I'm in a meeting and they're like, I need help with this or I need this. And I said, just go do something from that pile. So having that set up, they go and they just do something from that pile.
Right. So the next question we have is about the self match.
Yeah.
Is that slide no? Okay, so I'm gonna cruise over to self-match if I can get there. But Kelly's asking what's the age relevance for being able to use that? Her son is 5. Can a
Yeah. Any
5-year
age.
old do
Yes.
it with
Yes. It's actually,
modification or?
if you scroll through, so it's for any age. And actually, if you go on the Facebook page, the Katie Croce, she's one of the developers. She has videos of using this with both of her kids. Now, again, they're typically developing.
Mhm,
But in my work professionally, I've used the SelfMatch forum. So it's meant to be used for all ages. They use it in preschools and you can use it with adults. And again, it's just changed for the age. So the younger kids have a happy face and a sad face instead of a yes and a no. I've also done it with like kids who are really into like superheroes. The villain is the no and the superhero is the yes. So super individualized to make it a little bit more exciting for the kid to use. But
mhm.
the the general answer is it's for all ages. And if you go to that website, they'll have some examples. And the Facebook page is pretty good too. They've really been updating that a lot recently.
Right. Yeah, we've been using again, not we didn't use self-match, but we've been using something very, very similarly. At least, well, I say we. Jaden's school group has been doing it, and it's just happy face, sad face,
Yep.
and it's the exact same thing. Jaden puts his face down, and then he has a one-on-one aide, so his aide puts her, happy face or sad face down.
Yeah. It might be. I know that they go out to California a lot. They do a lot of trainings in California.
Mhm.
So it may
Yeah.
actually be that.
So we have a couple of hands raised. Larissa, if you're there, I'm going to try unmuting you so that you can ask Cindy your question. Let's see. Are you there?
Hi, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
hi.
great. So thank you, Cindy, for doing this. So we have a visual calendar up and we've been doing that for a few weeks and things have been okay and I've been kind of just trying to vibe her out. My daughter's 6, um, and she has a neurotypical, very active, very bright, younger 3-year-old brother who's been one of our bigger challenges is having both of them.
Yep.
But I wanted to know, she has an educational therapist that she's been doing Zoom teletherapy with for about 6 weeks now, and the refusal behavior is really being highlighted at that time. And I've also been kind of trying to go with the flow a little bit and like just if we want to have like an outdoor day, we have an outdoor day. We kind of like just do our Zoom class with our typical classroom. But I guess what I'm trying to figure out um, is it better to just do I continue the two? Like, I'm kind of trying to figure out whether or not I should just keep to it and dig my heels in and say, no, we're doing this. Like, this is the new normal,
Mhm.
or if I should try to give her a break, or if I should go
Right.
back to like a typical school week where we're very regimented throughout the week and then we have the break on the weekend, or do I give her more of like on Wednesday we just like basically we did a 5-mile walk, we played in the backyard, like just
Right.
to I don't know, I'm feeling I'm
Right.
also today is the first day that I'm like gonna just scream.
It's Friday.
So
I think every Friday
yeah,
feels like that these days.
yeah. So
So
I
is it
just am
just
trying to figure out what
Wednesdays?
to
Is it just Wednesdays that she has the meeting with her class? Is it with her whole
no,
class or?
she's got Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are mandatory meetings with
Okay.
the class.
Right.
And then Tuesday, Thursday, or right now I have Monday, Wednesdays, I have her tutor in the morning before that. And then on Thursday, she has on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she has speech and OT.
Okay.
Um,
And is it the
and
same for all of the sessions or is she more resistant to certain
she's
ones?
definitely more resistant to the the tutor.
Okay.
Um, but and I've been kind of moving around times and trying to get her to go outside and be active. I mean, she loves to be outside. I'm lucky in the fact that she really likes to be active.
That's good.
Um, but I'm just, I don't
So
know.
how long is the tutoring session? Is it academic
It's a,
work?
yeah, it's 50 minutes. And
50.
academics are definitely like her
Right.
more challenging. Like the social things, she's really like no big deal.
So your biggest concern is around that academic tutoring
Yeah, and
one?
also just like how kind of like when if you feel like you're kind of already doing a lot of the things that you mentioned,
Does she
like,
have
because
like any reinforcement system during that time? Does that person do anything? Does she earn anything
yeah,
for doing it?
I mean, she's she's a kid who doesn't really want to earn things. She really likes to
Right.
like
That's fine.
praise and just to
Yep.
feel like intrinsically good.
Yep.
So if she's not, but I'm definitely noticing that she's starting to like I'll get her to participate with things, but it's almost like she's like fine, like like a teenager.
Right.
Like fine, I'll just stand here.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's
I
just
would say,
horrible to see this new side of her.
yeah. So I think that's when we have to kind of look and say that the work itself is hard. And then it's going to be harder in this virtual learning environment, which is weird. And the person on the other end of the screen, like, only has so much control over. So when the teacher and the student are learning, if they're in the classroom and the teacher and the student are together, it's, the teacher can have a little bit more, they're there, they can really have a little bit more control. So it's going to be harder. So and when we talk about earning things, it doesn't have to be anything like tangible. When my son was potty training, we had a stupid potty training song we sang, but he only got it when he used the toilet. So you could come up with something like that. But what I'm hearing is it sounds like whatever's happening during that time maybe needs to be because it's changed for her. It might just be too much, and we might need to cut it down from 50 minutes to 30. or maybe do 2 25 minutes if you can. It may just be that she may need more breaks. And maybe the way the information is being presented, there could be a lot going on there. Is this through school, this tutor?
Um, no, this is a
Okay.
private
Okay.
thing, but
'Cause
also like just to piggyback, just to counter what you were saying,
yeah,
it's more about like if she goes into something with a good attitude, she sticks with the
right,
good attitude. So
right.
I feel like I don't know if, and obviously abstract concepts are really hard for our kiddos. And she's obviously like numbers and all that. Like I'll be like, you have a whole hour to do whatever you want.
Yeah,
And sometimes she's like awesome, and then sometimes she's like, I'm not really sure what you're saying.
yeah,
So I don't know if like saying like, oh, it's only going to be 30 minutes or it's going to be, I mean, I could try that. I'll try it. I mean,
yeah.
it'll
I mean,
certainly save me
typically,
some
so
money.
right, yeah, right. And I want to think twice about kind of this time, and is it maybe just she's just telling you this is too much? Like I'm doing all these other things online, and right now in my brain, like my brain is just trying to handle this new way of life, and so I may not be available for learning right now because I'm just trying to keep myself together. And now throwing the learning in is just a little bit too much. So it may just be her way of saying, like, this is, this is a lot for me. Um, so if it's something you want to keep trying, I'd either think if there's something you can do. So that's where if you do have a standard plan with like a reinforcement system in place where they're learning where they earn a lot, and usually, on the good days they earn, and then on the not great day they don't earn, that dichotomy is what helps that person learn how to get over the hump if they're really motivated for whatever it is that they're trying to earn. So you catch her on a couple days where she's good and then one day where she's not, but she knows, oh, if I just push through it, I'm going to get this really cool thing that I like. It may help you make the unpredictable times a little less unpredictable. So I think there's a couple of things that you could think about there.
Before we ended the webinar, I just wanted to thank Cindy, of course, for coming in. Cindy, I appreciate seeing all of your examples. Seeing how another mom is doing this is really quite helpful. Because again, Cindy's not just a BCBA, she's a mom with a kid with PWS. Like, you get it. You get the behaviors and you get working and trying to manage all of this all at once. So thank
Sure.
you
You're
for
welcome.
joining us. And then for everyone who's on the line today, again, this webinar has been recorded. It's going to go up on our blog. We have a number of resources that are up on our blog for webinars that we've already done. So we had a blog with Elizabeth Roof, with Patrice Carroll, with Lauren Roth. All of these people have been talking about behavior or mental health. If you think you might be seeing some changes in mental health, we have a quick little one-page handout that you can download to take a look at that just talks about what to look for and when you might want to talk to your doctor about next steps. We do have another webinar scheduled for May 6th. This is going to be our research grant webinar. So if you want to hear about the grants that we just recently funded, join us in May. And in case this is your first year or you've been living under a rock, May is Prader-Willi Awareness Month. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of your stories and photos. It's really a fun month for all of us Prader-Willi parents to gather together and really build the community. If you need resources, they are available at fpwr.org. Go check it out. And we just shared a Facebook profile frame that just says, I love somebody with Prader-Willi syndrome. Go check it out, add it to your profile frame. We can really show the world how big and wonderful our community is.